Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Run.
on that jail.
Boom. Well, this is a special episode because we wanted to try and have our own sort of award show. Ben made a good point. It's not really an award show because we're giving out an award each. It's not like there has to be a consensus. We're just listing the things that we like from last year's movies. Since we saw all of them and we don't watch all the TV shows, so it just made sense to stick to the movies.
Yeah. We basically took what other awards show did, and we were like, yeah, that's the mistake. We don't like that. And we're gonna do our own thing.
I agree. The comic book movies that came out last year were Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and the Fury of the Gods, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Flash, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Blue Beetle, The Marvels, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Not last. If it is the last, but still.
It's the last movie
Certainly.
in that kingdom.
That is what we're picking from if you're wondering how we came up with these. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to bring up the award category, and we'll talk about two runners up, and then kind of present our winners, each of our winners for that award. And we will start with this is a last minute decision, but it's a good one. We're going to start with suit design. So I guess costumes or whatever it's called at the Oscars. But we're doing costume design here.
Costume, wardrobe, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And I will say, like Daniel says, this is a last minute decision because the debate was have a VFX or makeup, and I'm like, wait a minute, let's just do costume instead.
Yeah,
we're doing our own thing, so. And I personally don't know enough about makeup or VFX. I just know what I like when I see it.
Exactly.
And I don't.
And I feel like that can be part of our best film conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the idea, especially since it's comic books that we're talking about, that we would get into costume design.
Yeah.
All right. Did you want to start with your runners up?
My runners up in this are actually so my runner-ups are Blue Beetle and Mutant Mayhem, actually.
All right.
For Blue Beetle, I really, really did love the costume design. I like that movie a lot. I think they did a lot of really, really good things, considering how low I set the bar for that movie to be successful, right? But they really did do a great job with the costume design, the scene where he actually gets kind of the Beetle kind of goes into him is like, okay, that looks awesome. That actually looks scary and cool at the same time. And you get why he'd have that reaction, right? For Mutant Mayhem, I was like, listen, we've seen the turtle so many different times. You've made such a good point of telling us how mismatched the designs of the turtles were in the Michael Bay stuff, that this is, I'm like, they're actually teenagers. They're actually lanky, and they've taken such small little elements to what we knew the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as, where they're just like, oh, Donatello wears purple, to something like, no, he's a nerd, and he's just like it. So Mutant Mayhem, to me, those are the runners up. Blue Beetle, Mutant Mayhem. What about you?
Well, we have some crossover. I would say, my costumes, I would go to the Marvels, or not the winner, but my runners up would be the Marvels and Blue Beetle. I think that the Marvels, like that looked like the Photon, or whatever Spectrum, whoever you want to call the Monica Rambeau character. I know they don't give her a name in the movie for some strange reason, but like I thought they did a great job with that. Like throughout the movie they have different looks and things. So I liked that a lot. I thought they did a good job. They did the normal MCU thing of giving you the actual look and then the character be like, this is stupid, and ripping it off. So you at least get a moment with the real stuff before
Mhm.
they make it their own.
Mhm.
And yeah, Blue Beetle, I mean, the Blue Beetle costume specifically, and I do think that a lot of it was practical. Like you could see on set images, even if it's touched up with CGI, at least it was there.
Mhm.
Um, which you can't really say about a lot of the MCU stuff, especially now when you like look at Iron Man and like even Spider-Man, they're just not wearing any version of that.
Yeah.
So I have to give it up to Blue Beetle on that. But as a movie, I was just, this has nothing to do with the quality of the movie. It's just more like it's only him and the other guy in the suits, and so like I didn't really elevate it beyond that. But I
Mhm.
thought the Blue Beetle suit was really good, and I respect it.
Yeah, yeah, and the winner of that category for me, best suits, is Guardians 3.
Hmm.
And that's just the sheer amount of suits that you have in that movie and the detail that each one had. And then also like, oh my God, when we get to like what's his name? God, Chuck Woody,
Oh, the High Evolutionary.
the high evolutionary actor. I can't, and I'm sorry that obviously staying consistent, the names are not a good strong suit for me. But the skin mask thing, that, oh my, that's awesome. It's so good. It's
Yeah,
so
it's
good.
very good.
Yeah.
I respect that a lot.
Mm,
They were almost in there, but then I remembered the Marvels, and I was just like, no, they
mm,
did a great job with that as well.
yes.
Um, I would say that my winner was Mutant Mayhem. I
Nice.
thought that, as you said, I feel like maybe the turtles have been overthought in terms of how you dress them up in a movie, and this felt simple but unique, and I thoroughly enjoyed the look of them. So yeah, they're not covered in head to toe like some like the other people I talked about, but in terms of looking like what they should look like, and not based on the comics, just oh, this is the right look for this movie for this
Mhm.
um, universe. I really liked it.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Solid.
We will now move on to Best Supporting Actress.
Right.
And I'll give my runners up first to give you some
Yeah.
time here.
Yeah.
My runners up would be Io Debris for Mutant Mayhem. I
Mhm.
thought she was a great April O'Neil. Not anything like the April O'Neils I've seen, and I'm not saying she's doing something completely different. Maybe on the Nickelodeon shows she's similar,
Mhm.
but obviously we grew up with the like '90s Turtles movies, and
Mhm.
then we had Megan Fox as an April O'Neil. So I was just like, oh, like this is a very distinct version that I really like, and
Mhm.
she feels, uh, and even more than Megan Fox, who in that universe owned the Turtles, feels way more integrated into their team,
Mhm.
and I appreciate that, and doesn't feel like she's mothering them or taking care of them. And
Mhm.
I like the original April O'Neil in the first one. I thought that was a great female lead, but I thought, yeah, this was great. And Michelle Pfeiffer and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Oh, nice.
I thought, as we talked about, there's that movie. I would imagine for visual reasons doesn't it gets dunked on a lot. But I
Yeah.
thought the point of the movie, which was asking people to please stop looking away from atrocities,
Mhm.
was really well wrapped up in her character, who was actively trying to look the other way and not bring it up. And I thought she played that very well,
Yeah.
and tied into the point of that movie. And obviously, we see now with three maybe genocides happening at once, and
Yeah.
everyone's kind of looking away, and it just felt like a movie that made sense to come out when it did, and is
Mhm.
even more important now in that respect of trying to get people to think about how they should work collectively and not individualize their experience and look the other way.
Yeah, yeah. My professional life is sadly, they've gone backwards in that regard. They kind of
Mm.
keep doing stuff in that, but I mean, that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about best supporting actresses in this. So I did put in my runners up Iman Vellani and Karen Gillian, because I
Mm.
thought they, like, Iman Vellani just made such a good jump there, and this is the biggest debate of all time whether or not that is a supporting actress or one of the three leads. I chose to recognize her more as a supporting actress in that regard, because of course this is unceremoniously known as Captain Marvel 2. Um, and it's still very much her movie and all that kind of stuff, but she made that jump to the big screen very, very well. And you made a good point of like she's one of the best casting choices
Oh
in a
yeah,
long, long time. So that's what it is. And Karen Gillian,
Gillen.
Gillen, names. Um, her thing was not having Zoe Saldana in the movie to carry that emotional beat that she had been doing in Guardians 1 and 2 to all of a sudden shift to Karen. Did such a great job with the character as well. I mean,
Hmm.
it really, really did change a lot, and she took that role on really, really well. So those are my runner up for sure.
Nice. I
Mhm.
respect those choices.
Mhm.
Uh, Spoiler alert, I didn't have them as supporting in their movies, but
Mm.
but there's always that Oscar math where like someone like Lily Gladstone is told she should go in supporting, or Viola Davis goes into supporting even though she's clearly the lead of Fences. So
Mhm.
it doesn't matter.
Right.
We're handing out, we're giving flowers right now. So wherever they show up is good enough to get the
That's
recognition.
that's right.
Um I put Lauren Velez as Rio Morales from Across the Spider Verse as Best Supporting
Mhm.
Actress. I
Oh, that's
thought
good.
she doesn't get a lot to do in that first movie, and then she comes
Mhm.
full, like, she's pretty much front and center in the second movie, down
Mhm.
to like when you see them at the guidance counselor and she's like, he's lying to you, and her automatically is like, oh no, my husband's not lying to me. And it's like you start to see how this movie is more and more becoming about her dreams, her hopes, and her concerns.
Mhm.
And I just thought that everyone talks about it, like they put it in the first trailer, like her speech to Miles is like great alone, but
Mhm.
she plays so many different levels in that movie, and I just thought it was a great performance. So that would be
Yeah.
my best supporting actress of the 2023 batch of movies.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, it was Palm Clementif who
Mm-hmm.
played Mantis in Guardians 3. And I thought just because like, yeah, every time Mantis she really grew into that role of like I love the idea of her character's power being an extreme empath, but also recognizing the growth that she needs to do and not supporting everyone else, not being
Mm-hmm.
the constant like doormat, so to speak, which is typically kind of what empaths end up being in society. That she's kind of break out on her own, and then how she starts drawing out boundaries and all that. And that speaks more to the writing of the character, but the way she did it, I think was just so
Yeah,
good
you
and
felt
not
she executed well. Yeah.
she executed it very, very well and didn't do it in a way that's like, I demand everyone respect my boundaries. It's like, no, these are my boundaries, and I'm just not doing it. And like, it's great. So much attention was given to that. So I do give Palm Clementif that, but I am very jealous of your number one because I'm like, the more I hear you talk about it, I'm like, yeah, why didn't that even make it into my runner-ups? That was just a silly thing for me.
This,
But
as we talked about off mic, this is
mhm,
the good thing about us having our own lists, is that
yeah.
we get to have a more fulsome approach to this, and people get a sense of a more well-rounded thing other than us just being like, yeah, it's this or it's that. Yeah,
Mhm,
I'm happy that you had Palm Clemente because I don't have her appearing anywhere else, so I'm glad
mhm.
that she gets recognition, and I'm glad I thought of Lauren Velez, so I think it worked out.
Absolutely, it did. Absolutely.
We're gonna go to Best Supporting Actor now.
Hmm.
Um, so my runners up are Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne Batman in The Flash, and Jack Dylan Glazer as what's his name, Freddy?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from Shazam and the Fury of the Gods.
Mhm.
Uh, Funnily enough, I had it as Jaimon Hansu at first because I liked him so much, but I'm like, no. Jack Dylan Glazer definitely was given a bunch to do because he popped so much in the first one, and I
Yep.
thought he handled it very well.
Mhm.
Um, Michael Keaton, an obvious like nostalgia play for me. I was just so happy that it wasn't embarrassing seeing Michael Keaton be Batman again. I thought it worked for me. I know people have retroactively been like, that was shit, but for me, I thought that was a nice send off of a character that kind of really cemented a character, but a performance that cemented my love of this Batman character.
Absolutely. It great lists. Mine are here we go again. My runners up with Chuck Woody
Hmm.
from Guardians 3, as well as Jack Dylan Grazer. Jack, for that exact same reason, I think he is the strongest part of Shazam, the whole franchise, to be
Hmm.
perfectly honest. He bang on delivery, like everything as non-memorable as the rest of the movie was. Jack's performance is constantly there. He brings everything he can to it. And Chuck Woody's kind of performance as the High Evolutionary is just like, this is incredible kind of stuff
I'm glad you
that
have
he's
Chuck
doing.
Woody on there because
Yeah,
I kept placing him in different spots, and then ultimately,
yeah,
I'll be honest, he didn't make it ultimately. So I'm glad you picked him up there.
yeah, yeah. And his just performance, his acting is just incredible. And God, the
Yeah, I think we talked about it. Like he's
yeah,
such a one note villain, but it doesn't feel one note to experience his
yes,
performance.
yes.
You He gives you a full character, even though the point of what he's doing is so one note
Mhm.
and just so like plainly evil. There's no real uh I wouldn't say any real nuance to the evil that he's putting on display, but
Mhm.
it's a dynamic performance nonetheless. And I think, yeah, he
Yes.
definitely deserves that recognition.
Absolutely, absolutely. As for the winner of that category for myself, though, it is Michael Keaton.
Nice. I'm glad that
Yeah.
you got him there. Yeah, I was just like, this is great. I'm so happy that he's in this. Again, there's so many things around a lot of these movies now where you're
Mhm.
like, not great morally, but
Yes.
they're movies we watched, and we are
Yep.
awarding these performances, and I thought that Michael Keaton did a great job. My
Absolutely.
winner is Daniel Kaluuya as Spider Punk in Across the Spider Verse.
Nice.
It was a character I was just like, what? Why would Daniel Kaluuya play that? And then he just completely turned me around on being like, well, Daniel Kaluuya does a very specific. I thought he was so
Mhm.
like lively and fun, and
Mhm.
I like Daniel Kaluuya. He's one of my favorite actors, so I wasn't like, oh, get him out of here. It was just like,
Mhm.
oh, like I would give him a more serious character, or like just a more pensive character, and
Right.
he ended up killing it. Like I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
this is perfect. Like this is great stuff. And I'm not saying that as great. Maybe people don't think that's what he's like in the comics. I
Mhm.
just thought for this movie, I just believed it, and that became Spider Punk to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just one of those characters where I'm like, I really hope to get more of him in
Hmm.
the third installment because of course him being on the final spider team against the rest of the spiders. Um it's big. That's a good one. Very good one.
All right, let's move on to Best Actress. So my runners up were your runners up in the other category, which are
Mhm.
Aman Vellani and Karen Gillan
Mhm.
from the Marvels and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I
Mhm.
think you said everything I would have said, basically. Um, it's hard because, yeah, I think I looked at it as ostensibly it's a Captain Marvel sequel, but it is called The Marvels, so it felt like a team movie, like it's a team up movie. So I just thought, yeah, Iman Vellani would count as a lead in that to me, and it's the Guardians of the Galaxy. Nebula's part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, a team thing again. I just thought, yeah, so they're leads in their movie,
Mhm.
and I thought, yes, Karen Gillan did a great job of migrating from, oh yeah, Gamora's my sister, we have beef, or we
Mhm.
have this history, to finding her spot with her other castmates and bringing the gravitas and still humor and everything, and making you
Mhm.
care about that character who could come off as pretty dull
Yeah.
otherwise. I thought she was great, and yeah, I've said it already on this podcast. I think Iman Vellani is one of the best cast actors in the MCU,
Mhm.
um, mostly because she wasn't really a name that people could attach to a bunch of different roles,
Mhm.
and she just took up that space with ease,
Yes.
and did a great job. But oh yeah, sorry, I'll let you. You
No,
go
no,
with
no.
your
That's
your. But yeah,
Keep
that's what I was
going.
gonna say. No, I was gonna say my winner and realized I should let you go now for your runners up.
That's all right. My runner-up actress was Iman Vellani. And oh God, I can't pronounce the name clearly as well as you
Oh,
did,
but
but
you didn't you put her in best supporting actress?
yes, but then also recognize the idea that I'm like, hold on, like what you said, she is one of the three leads, and just like wherever that shifts, it's just it was confusing in my head. But
Oh,
I did put her in the runner-up category because I did think she did such a good job she just didn't have enough to work with in that movie to actually get to the ultimate top part of it. And then the mom in Spider-Verse
oh, Lauren
was a
Velez.
yeah, those were my runner-up actresses for sure. But yeah, and for the same reason, like I and this is the thing, and I'm probably gonna speak. Actually, you know what? Let's get to the winners, and then I'm gonna talk about both those performances of my winner for Best Actress.
Okay.
Yeah,
My winner is Haley Steinfeld as Spider Gwen in Across the Spider Verse.
same baby.
Yeah, I figured that was the case.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, she's obviously a big part of the first movie, but
Mhm,
like Lauren Velez gets a lot put on her in this
mhm.
second movie. She's like the opening narration. It feels like a lot more of her movie in that sense, and
Absolutely, it does.
she gives you everything you would want out of a lead in this
Yeah.
movie. I think it's a great performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And for both those actresses, and Haley Steinfeld winning it for me in the Best Actress category is just like over the years, I've really been more and more impressed with what voice actors commit to the role. Like, it doesn't matter that I don't see them on screen, I feel what she's putting out there. And she
Hmm.
does such a wonderful, fantastic job that to me, I'm like, I don't need to see someone's facial reaction. I need to hear it in what they're doing. And
Well,
Haley
yeah,
does
so you
such
have
a
to
good
feel
job.
it. You have to
Yeah,
feel the performance. Yeah.
exactly. I have to feel it. And Haley does such a good job. Like all the stuff that's done with her and her dad and the conflict, internal conflict that she constantly has, and just like the idea of like, see, this is why I didn't tell you. This is why I didn't tell you I'm Spider-Gwen. Like that is just like, yes, it made me feel like a teenager again to like all the shitty things that I would hide. But I'm like, yeah, this is exactly why. Like you would come down on me in this way, and yeah, now you're gonna arrest me and even your own daughter and all that kind of like she did such a good job, but then also pivoting to Miles and everything and the conflict in her voice when she's a part of the Spider Police
Yeah,
and
or
being
like
like,
when she first meets Miguel, and you're like, "Oh, she's
yes,
just having fun with this and
yeah,
doing a good job."
yeah. And then when Miguel goes like, you know why, and her just and I know this is an animated visual, but like there's something that she does with that role that I'm like, oh wow, this is a huge conflict within yourself that you know why you can't be close to Miles, but you can't, but you're ignoring your feelings inside. It's a great performance. Um,
Agreed,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
Let's move on to best actor.
Hmm.
So my runners up are Chris Pratt in Volume 3
Hmm.
of Guardians of the Galaxy and Shameik Moore as Miles Morales in
Hmm.
Across the Spider Verse. I think you know there's a lot to be said about Chris Pratt in his
Yes, his
personal
off-screen
life.
antics. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember who it was, but people are like, this person is who people think Chris Pratt is. They're saying like, yeah, he's nebulously around some bad stuff, but this person does bad stuff, and we're still like, we're still okay with them. But
Hmm.
yeah, I that's not to excuse the harm he's caused to people that have spoken out, but it's more just
Absolutely.
I think he is very good at taking on the emotion of this. I think we had a lot to
Hmm.
talk about when we talked about this movie and just him reconciling being with a different version of the love of his life and
Hmm.
the arc he goes on in terms of how he relates to that person and
Hmm.
then how he relates to like the revelation of like you do a lot of running from the people who do actually love you. Like you haven't ever visited your grandparents that might want to see you and love you like a family.
Hmm.
So I just thought all of that, again, as you said, that part of that is writing, but his execution of that good writing is why I have him in the conversation. Obviously not winning, but in the conversation. Shamik Moore, a lot like Haley Steinfeld, I think has a lot to get across. I think he's got a lot of quotables in this.
Mhm.
People talking about, nah, I'm gonna do it my own way this time or whatever. And
Mhm.
but also like the fun he's having at first when he's like mocking the spot and I think like Haley, he's doing a lot with this performance,
Yep.
and it's a very strong performance.
Yeah. Yeah, for my runners up, I also got Chris Pratt in there as well as Zolo Maradunya.
Oh, Blue Beetle, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Blue Beetle's actor.
Jaime
Um
Reyes, yeah, as
yeah,
Jaime
Jaime.
Reyes, yeah.
Yeah. uh, Chris Pratt, for all the asterisks on Chris Pratt, is yeah, this is just criticizing or just looking at his performance, not his uh outside off-screen antics and all that, and how destructive and how bad they are. But Chris Pratt to me does do a really fantastic job of playing a man-child, right? We see that in Parks and Rec. He does a very good job of it. But to push that man-child in a direction where he's directly dealing with his own hypocrisy of like, I want a family, and like you said, ignoring the family that he does exist to crave a family that he wants,
Mm-hmm.
is it was such a good performance, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. I think it's always iconic that he gets to drop the first F-bomb in such a Chris Pratt way, and in just a natural way that it's like, yeah, this is awesome. Like it's really, really good. So I got to give him recognition for the performance he gives. But like I said, the asterisk is like, don't love him as a human being anymore. Uh, Zolo, him being just like, again, the bar set so low, but him making me love the character so much and just having so much fun with it. But also, like, as cheesy as it is, when everyone's like, your superpower is your family. I'm like, yeah, you feel that in his performance. You feel him needing his family, needing that support, that love, and all that kind of stuff. And when they do get together at the end, as you know, as great as the grandma scene is and all that kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, they're actually supporting him to do the thing, and he's
Mm-hmm.
able to do it, and it's wonderful to see him deliver such a great performance in a movie that the bar was set so low. He Those were my runners up for sure. And for your winner, who
Yeah,
do we
my
have?
winner is Bradley Cooper as Rocket. I think
Nice, that's a good one.
um, it's another voice performance. Obviously, Sean Gunn does the physical
Mhm,
of it, but to me, a big part of Rocket is the nuances in the voice texture, and
mhm,
so like obviously Bradley Cooper doing the young, and maybe they are twisting knobs here and there, but
mhm,
I always think of like he's this happy-go-lucky guy, and then in the first movie when he switches to like he called me vermin or something, like when he's getting mad at Drax, like there's this
mhm,
snarl in his voice that feels like someone who's taking this job very seriously, and that obviously comes through in volume 3 as he has so much to play, like when he's young and he's asking the high evolutionary like, oh, like are we gonna go there, and high evolutionary, like we, there is no we here.
yeah.
And like, so even within that movie you're watching him map out the arc from this loving naive character
Mhm,
into the Rocket we met in the first volume 3, like this full circle moment.
mhm,
That's like not trapped, it is all condensed in this one movie, that
mhm,
the amount of effort and work that or attention to detail I think that was put into it
mhm.
is why I would give him the edge over the other two people I mentioned for
Yeah,
this.
no, that's a really good one. And yeah, like breaking down the psychology of that character in this last one, fantastic. But unfortunately, my top winner was Shamik Moore because I think he does
Yes.
so much nuanced things in his performance within the cultural aspects of what he's doing too, and just like bring all that to the screen in the way he delivers it. And even though he's not arguably the lead of this in the sense
Well,
where
he is
Haley
the lead.
Steinfeld, yeah, he is the lead, but
Yeah.
like you know how it's part two is actually like Spider-Gwen's movie more than it is actual Miles Morales' movie. It's just the idea of like he still gets a lot and so much driven. And you're right, the fun that he has in the beginning of like, Spot, you're not really good at this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden being like, and I quote this a lot whenever I do anything that's against the grain. I'm like, I always think of that. his performance of like, nah, I'm gonna do it my way. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that is just so damn good. And that's coming with this huge context of like him being told what to do his whole life and being told he's wrong and he shouldn't exist and all that. And to be like, no, I don't care. I'm doing it my way. It's
Yeah.
just so damn good that it's always gonna live in my head.
And I would say it is his like
Yeah.
there is something that's Coley, but like 95% of the movie is about people reacting to him
Yes.
and decisions he's making. So
Mhm.
while other people have a lot of screen time,
Mhm.
it is all in reaction to decisions made by our main character, Miles
Yeah.
Morales.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I am very happy that you gave him that win. It was up there obviously for me.
Yep.
I think I just was more emotionally pulled into the Bradley Cooper of it all, but
Yeah.
Moore is a great choice. Let's go to best writing. I think people might not like my runners up, but
Oh, really, eh?
no, I don't. I don't think people are going to be happy with it. But I stand firmly on this.
Yep.
So my runners up would be Jeff Loveness writing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and James Gunn writing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Like I think people listen to our episodes for that. There's so much to mine in terms of things that start interesting discussions that come out of those movies. We've talked about them already, and why I have Ant-Man here is maybe the movie doesn't reach best movie status because of other factors, but if I'm just looking at that script and looking at how they hammer home that theme and explore it through different ways, it's not just the one way they're doing it. I feel like each character engages with that theme in a very great way, and I think the message is very important. It's like too important to just be like, oh, the visuals suck or MODOK is stupid. I think
yeah.
If I'm just talking about a script, I think that's a very strong script that was put together, and the writing is meaningful to me for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, like regardless of how everything else came together for it. I think that script was great, and yeah, James Gunn. I think it's definitely a very pro James Gunn, the artist, podcast in terms of how he is able to take his experiences and filter it through these characters, and we can see people who did not have great pasts try to become better and try to grow, which is always a compelling way to do it. And then you put it into comic book movies, which we are already prone to like. So yeah, I thought that the writing there was great.
Yeah, no, those are really really good ones. I too in my runners up have James Gunn for the very very same reasons. His off screen antics when he was younger, and this is the important thing, right? No one's perfect, but we want to be better, and he displays that in such a fantastic way through everything he's done recently that I firmly believe that he is better, and he's taking it upon himself to actually put that into his material, because there are people that will, and I forget like where this joke comes from, is like, oh, they're really shitty people, but they're like, oh, but I'm working on myself. Like I forget which movie that was from that we reviewed recently, but it's the idea of like, yeah, are you though? Like, because your behaviors don't change, you're just talking
Oh,
about
that was
your
in
shit.
Loki season 2. That was Miss
Yes.
Minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, Miss Minutes, where she's like, "Oh, but I'm working on myself." I'm like, you could talk about working on yourself, or you could show us. And the more important part is change behavior, not change thought. Right? Thought doesn't mean anything unless it extends to behavior, and James Gunn clearly does that. My third runner-up is O'Brien, Rogan, Goldberg, and Rowe for putting together Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And my reason for that is this movie is so well put together for the audience that it's serving, which is a child audience, right? Like when I watched that movie, I felt out of place. I'm like, I think I'm the only actual adult here that doesn't have children, which is fine. It is what it is. Like I watched the Lego movie like that too.
Yeah.
And these are good movies with good writing in it. For Goldberg, for Seth Rogen and Goldberg, like that team, I always like what they put together, and I think they're a
Hmm.
really good writing team. So that those are my runners up. I think they did encompass the most important part of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is the teenage part, and
I
they did a great
yeah,
job.
and I think well, that's actually why I didn't have it as best friend because I think the
Mhm.
teenage part came from them knowing let's just get those kids in there and they can improvise. So,
Right.
but the themes of the movie
Mhm.
I think were important. So not necessarily the teen aspect of it, but the idea of you should be doing good things because you think that's what should happen, not because you
Yes.
think you're going to get some reward at the end or
Mhm.
there's going to be a payoff. So I like the writing
Mhm.
for that. That I think that's an important message for everyone to know, but
Mhm.
also a good one to instill in kids, as you said, for the age group.
Mhm.
But yeah, my winner is Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, Dave Callum, for Across the Spider Verse. We talked about it, right, like this. There's the shift. It felt like from kids need understanding in the first movie, which I completely uh, aligned with, and then shifting the focus a bit more to parents and being like even Gwen Stacy's father, like just the parents being like, well, we don't know if we're doing it right. Like it would be great to have some kind of feedback on that and the insecurities that come with that, in addition to what people I think try to pretend isn't there, which is the anti-blackness that comes from not just white people,
Mhm.
um, specifically in the very contested like Latino, Afro Latino thing. So part of why I think you're right to give Shamik more of that the win is that I don't think he is someone who speaks Spanish regularly, but it doesn't feel weird coming out of his mouth, and so and
Yes.
then it feels great when he's speaking Spanish to Miguel O'Hara. Miguel O'Hara doesn't fully respond, and yes, he does say some Spanish words, but his response is more of a grunt and more of a like you're beneath me. And so when he
Mhm.
responds, it's not with the warmth that you would expect when you feel like, oh, like we can connect over this shared language. It's
Mhm.
this complete block, like he's blocking him at every turn. And I think that does come down to like writing and performance, yes, but I thought like those types of details, and we talked about the white allyship and how far can that take you.
Mhm.
Very important things that aren't just as wide or like yeah widespread as don't look away if you have powers, or
Mhm.
do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because you can save prom. I and I'm not belittling those things. I think those are
Mhm.
important, as I said. It's just this to me was like, oh, these are day-to-day things that people are dealing with
Mhm.
and don't feel as big and overwhelming as the
Mhm.
other two. So it felt that much more important to have that be such an like layered in part of the writing in these movies.
Mhm. Mhm. And for my winner, I'm right there with you, Lord Miller and oh God, I
Is it
guess my Chris
Callahan or Callum? I can't tell. It's
Callahan. Yeah,
Callaham.
Callahan.
Yeah.
I just couldn't read my own cursive writing. It's Lord Miller for that, and expanding on that too, the Miguel stuff. Absolutely, I'm right there with you because the complicated nuance of what Miguel does when he gets that Spanish, it hits home for me, right? It's like when in the past, and this is just personally for me, I get a lot of Chinese students that are immigrated over that they would speak to me in Chinese and I would respond to them in English and not realizing that self-hatred inside and what I was
Mm,
aligning myself towards, right? Now, when I do it, I'm very, very excited, but also very embarrassed about the fact that I cannot respond the level of literacy that they need in order to actually
right.
have full-on conversation. But I do get excited and I do respond now because it's embraced that. So it's the idea of okay, him aligning his values towards the oppressor and all those kind of things, and him like that grunt, like you describe. I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of self-hatred put into one sound, and for me to recognize that, it's just and for the performances and the writing to actually shine a light on that. Although, like more nuanced, because you and I will pick up on stuff like that because we've had lived that experience. But
Hmm.
other people, it would just go over their head.
Or they would
But
actively reject it, and those are
exactly.
and I'm talking about people of color. who are actively rejecting it, not
Yeah.
just white people. So it's, as I think you've already, like, we've kind of touched on, like, the white supremacy of it all, and that
Yes.
you don't have to be white to buy into white supremacy.
Oh,
It's in fact how
absolutely.
white supremacy works, that everyone tries to buy into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that the movie is showing us a very real thing of anti-blackness, and people are
Mhm.
like, no, it's what? No, it's just, and it's like, this this character is formed out of anti-blackness. Like,
Yes.
why would that not be a part of a story they tell with him?
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's there's so many different levels, and then also to highlight the, dare I say, the cis het male, a white male aspect of the Spot being like, okay, yeah, it's him being born out of this insecurity and
And
this
like,
this
take me
ne
seriously. I should be taken seriously.
exactly,
Why isn't anyone
exactly.
taking me seriously? Yeah.
Yeah, and having that become the ultimate villain, it's just where you get a side joke and where he grows into that. It's just like in the hatred that you can experience from that, in the sense where it's like, come on, this black kid doesn't even take me seriously. So I'm,
Hmm.
it's just like that thing where I'm like, oh boy, there's a lot of racism in there too for him and what he's doing and all this kind of stuff. But it's there's so many different levels and layered into this movie. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic stuff.
But I like your picks, but
Mhm.
I just want to explain, because I think people will see a path here and they might
Mm.
question why I wouldn't have Ninja Turtles as best writing.
Right.
Uh, as I said, I think that yes, the theme is there, it's strong, but I think that what a lot of people like about the experience of that movie comes from the spontaneity that happened, because the producers, Seth Rogen and I don't remember his partner's name at the moment, Goldberg,
Yeah.
were like, hey, let's actually have them record together, and that way they can bounce off of each other
Yeah.
and see what comes out of that. So that's, again, I'm not saying that makes it less than. I'm just talking about, if we're just looking at writing,
Hmm.
I wanted to highlight those three movies and give it to Cross the Spider Verse.
Yeah.
Even though I'm recognizing that I think Mutant Mayhem is a strong movie.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
All right, let's go to Best Director.
Hmm.
So here we go. Jeff Rowe and Kyle Spears for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, and James Gunn for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 are my runners up. I think that for James Gunn, yeah, like there's a lot of great visuals on there. I know that's not just what a director does. He can pull out the performances, and I think that's where I saw the benefit of Mutant Mayhem, was the directors, the producers getting these performances out of the people that they hired. Same with James Gunn, and I think they're two very visually striking films as well. So it seems like the perfect marriage, and they feel cohesive, meaning that the director was able to remember everything that needs to happen and
Hmm.
keep that on track, and not have these blips here and there.
Hmm.
I'm sure when we talked about the movies, I came up with some nitpicks, but in terms of the movies that came out last year,
Yeah.
these felt great directed. And then I'm sure people already know what my winner is, but we'll get to your runners up.
Yeah, yeah. My runners up for best director are Jeff Rowe, very, very similar to you. And this is gonna be a little bit tough for me, so stay with me. It would be Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson for Beyond the Spider-Verse. It's wild to me what that movie accomplishes, and for three directors cohesively working together. It's I love the exceptions to the rules. Like, always say, like, don't, not too many chefs in the kitchen. This is a situation where, like, we have three people working together to direct one amazing piece. Collaboration is possible. We don't need some sort of dictatorship or fascist kind of, it has to be this person's vision and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. I love that because you see how those aspects of it enhance this movie. For Jeff Rowe and all that kind of stuff, they do a fantastic, fantastic job too of what they're doing. It's really impressive. But my top winner for this I don't think it's a surprise at this point, given how much I love that movie. Do you want me to talk about my top
You
winner
can go
first?
for your winner. Yeah, sure.
It's James Gunn.
Yeah.
Because to me, James Gunn is it. And this might be unfair, and I recognize this, but I don't just see Guardians 3 as the reason why he won this. I see Guardians 1, 2, and 3, but him to put on such a high cap and emotional beat for all these characters that you didn't expect to care about. Anyone that can write a story and make a movie about in the secret antagonist or secret protagonist being Rocket the entire time. I'm like, that is wow. You to take such a cartoonish character to be like it's a talking raccoon to being one of the most emotionally complex characters with all the defensiveness, all the trauma and all that kind of stuff built into one character, and watching him transcend through that to be the leader at the end of it, just incredible stuff for sure.
I agree. It is good stuff. My winner was Joaquin DeSantos
Mm-hmm.
and Kemp Powers, Justin K. Thompson. I think what they were able to get completed because of things like when you see that like the different parts of Spider Punk are animated on different, like attention to detail like that, like really getting in there and having not just an overall look, but each character has their own way of being animated and performing. To your point, the three of them working with, I think it was Kemp Powers really focusing on things like story beats and okay, so meaning the other two can work on maybe like action and everything. So yeah, it's a big undertaking. It's one of the longest animated films, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it makes sense that maybe three people, and even and I'm not saying this to be like, oh, but mine was better. It's more your point of James Gunn being able to tell his story in three parts. I thought it was even more impressive. We're talking about director and not just
Mm-hmm.
the film as a whole. That these guys weren't the directors on the first one, and it doesn't feel like they dropped the
Mm-hmm.
ball. Like they actually came in and made something that it's like it's. I don't think there's a wrong answer. Which one is better, Into
Mm-hmm.
the Spider Verse or Across the Spider Verse? I like Across the Spider Verse a bit better. Maybe that's recency bias, but that they didn't drop the ball. Like usually
Mm-hmm.
when a new director comes in, you're like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
But they came in and they killed it. So yeah, I definitely give it to them as best director.
Yeah, and I also think that's a good point that you made. Like, typically, one of the biggest issues I have with sequels is it's either so much better than the original that it makes the original look stupid, or the original so much better that they didn't capture that lightning in a
Mm-hmm.
bottle effect from the original. This is something where each of those movies stand on their own because of the different perspective and all that kind of stuff. It's truly one of the situations where I'm like, a sequel did not ruin the franchise in that way, right?
No.
And that's what's so incredible what they did with Spider-Man, and the directors there, and that's a great point that they were not the OGs, but they kept that vibe going.
And maybe they worked on the first movie. I just mean
Yeah.
that when you see that change in the name from
Mhm.
movie to movie, it's usually like, oh, what happened here? Oh no.
Yeah.
But it was left in good hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
For sure.
I think people already know where we're going based on our list with this, but let's talk
Best
about
movie,
best movie.
baby.
So my runners up are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, and Guardians of the Galaxy. And I want to say, I know I had Ant-Man 3 in best written, but it obviously didn't show up in directing or best film. And I feel like sometimes those things are tied together.
Yes.
But I think my point was that I think about Ant-Man's writing more than I think about the movie as a whole. And so I
Hmm.
wanted to highlight that I thought that was well written, even though it obviously isn't successful because of how many people hate it.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but even down to the things of like people saying like, Ken got beat by ants. I'm like, yeah, he was in an Ant-Man movie. If he wasn't beaten by ants, like, what are we doing here? Like, it's like I don't really get
It's
that.
true.
It's like, yeah, he's not gonna be beaten by Iron Man. Like, it's
Yeah.
gonna be ants. That's how Ant-Man fights. But like, yeah, and we know the Marvel machine and how that can um derail some of the best laid tracks.
Hmm.
And I'm
Hmm.
not, and so that's not me being like, it's a secret gem that you guys are idiots for not liking. I've accepted people don't like it, And I think overall, then they're right because they didn't like it. So then that means something was wrong with the movie. It just spoke to me at a writing level, but that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that I think it was particularly well directed or
Mhm.
the best movie of the year. So I just wanted
Mhm.
to give that context for why it's not showing up beyond best writing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. The writing of that movie is just so solid. It's one of those movies where you're like, all right, yeah, the MCU issues of like rush timelines and fumbled this and too many. Like at the end of the day, you
Or
see
like
the
wasting
bone.
casting
Yes.
Chidi in a
Yeah.
Marvel movie with that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the bones of what they wrote for Ant-Man actually, you're like, this sucks that they fumbled it so bad. It's not like a situation where it's Madam Web where you're like, yikes, this whole thing is a train wreck. Let's just strap in and have fun. This is like, I'm so disappointed that they fumbled the ball on this because the writing is so fundamentally good. And when people are like, I can't believe Ants beat King, I'm like, well, let's recognize it was Ant-Man's plan that beat Thanos as well. So and the idea his like don't forget about the little guy book that he has there. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like that's a great attention to calling out the idea of like yeah, everyone can contribute and that commentary on hey, why aren't you contributing to this very real issue right now
Mm-hmm.
is a fantastic one. It's just like hey, stop shining the spotlight on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
stop derailing this whole the stuff that needs attention right now. We're post blip, and people's homes are displaced. We have a refugee crisis on our hand for all intents and purposes of that movie. Stop looking away and stop being narcissistic. Stop being comfortable. It's such a good thing to do, and it did take Ant-Man to change the whole course of that. So, I mean, when people make those comments, I'm like, I don't think you're paying enough attention to the
No.
actual detail in this for sure.
Yeah.
You're just memeing on the fact that, and I agree, like MODOK looks stupid, and like
Sure.
yeah, sure, whatever. But like, it's a fundamental. The skeleton is there for a good
Yeah.
film. I'm glad you made that distinction. My runners up are the exact same as you: Mutant Mayhem and Guardians 3. Mutant Mayhem to me really caught me off surprise with the writing, everything they were doing, and it's one of those things where I have this huge bias of like, oh man, teenage problems, but you see how these teenage problems really extend into adult problems just based on
Mm-hmm.
scale, right? That idea of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, he's saving prom because he should do it. It's the right thing to do, not because he can get a date with April. It's so nuanced, it's so good. And then you also see like how his behaviors and also Jackie Chan's performance as
Well,
Splinter.
even him, like,
It's
dude,
great.
you protect your kids not out of fear, but because you want them to be like
Mhm.
safe in the world. So yeah, like he also has to like reframe how he's protecting his kids and be like,
Yeah.
I guess we're going out. Like I can't keep you here all the time.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not right either.
And for and this it's obviously a very nuanced thing that Jackie Chan performs this character being a Chinese person during the anti-Asian hate kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff where it's like yeah, and it still affects the Asian community to this day, right? A lot of and recent studies have shown that like 75% of Asians in New York City have changed their behaviors drastically in response to this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the idea, it's the exact kind of portrayal of what's actually happening in human existence right now of like okay, this is how bad it's gone for this person. They reacted to the trauma, they're course correcting, they're changing it to be safe, but prioritizing that safety is coming at the harm of other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people that you care most about. And to have Jackie Chan's character on screen deal with that. And the reason why I say on screen is like he's not been the best towards his own children either.
I mean, this is another instance of like the performance is what's being
Mhm.
discussed, not necessarily the person. Because yes,
Yeah,
I've heard some other things about
yeah,
Jackie Chan in his personal life that I'm like, I will divorce myself from this for the purposes of this podcast. Not
yes,
you certainly can contact us and we can have discussions that way if you
absolutely.
want to. But we're just talking about performances for now.
Yeah, because I am definitely not on his side with the anti-LGBTQ stuff that
Yep.
he's done with his own family,
Yep.
right? And it's it's just his performance in this character, the nuance, like they really knew what they were doing in that regard. And then also to have teenagers be teenagers and have propel them to do teenager things that are just really, really funny at the end of the day. I'm like, this is great. This is a great movie. Guardians 3 for all the obvious reasons, the commentary on like genetic superiority and how stupid that is and how destructive and evil that is and all that kind of stuff. And
And how
how
emotional it is.
exactly, and how emotional it is. There's just so much working through it, and it's everything, but it's clearly not my best movie.
And I like we said this on the thing
Mhm.
that they weren't like it's the end, so everyone's gonna die, or it's like no,
Yeah,
like we can actually show these characters get to grow and try to better themselves instead of being like, and then they ended die like they fought and died, and great. It's like, well, no, like maybe let's show what it's like to actually have to be about what you're talking about,
yeah,
and set a path for yourself and follow it.
absolutely. Yeah, that at the end of the day, you're very right to bring up that point. Like everyone is like, who's dying? Who's dying? Even me was like, who's dying? And to reckon with the idea of like death doesn't have to be the end of something. It just people just naturally find a way to grow beyond the current situation that they're
Mm-hmm.
in and still love one another, right? Like Mantis's departure from the team was a big shock to me.
Me too. Yeah.
And that speaks so well to the behavioral aspect of the empathy and the codependency behind that, right? It's just like for a highly empathetic character to go out and be like, "No, Drax, it defeats the purpose if you come with me. I have to do this alone." Um, is such a strong message for a lot of people that do have that codependency, empathetic side of their personality, and I don't think it gets the credit it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
So Guardians 3 is just so many complicated things from a psychological perspective wrapped up in that movie. Um, Absolutely, but my winner for sure. I think I highly suspect you and I are on the same page for this. But I'm just gonna go first. My winner is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh shit! I thought we had the same one.
We don't?
Of course we do. Of course we do.
You got me there. You got
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, it's Across the Spider Verse for me. I mean, I feel like it was not going to be that big of a surprise, given when we did our comic book movie draft. We both were
Mhm.
like, "Damn it! I wish like you got Across the Spider Verse as best comic
Yeah.
book film ever," and I was like, "Damn it, that's what I wanted." But yeah, yeah, we've talked it up, but we should definitely give final thoughts on the movie. But I think that as a whole, um, it, I think very well written, very well directed, and obviously there's performances that pop in this. We didn't even talk about the music, which I loved. I feel
Oh,
like we
the
should
music.
add that
Yep.
to next year best
Mhm.
score. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think like the reasons I talk about when we talk about the writing, like the all of the commentary on that interpersonal stuff and the anti-blackness. Again, for a character that was created out of anti-blackness, people not wanting a black Peter Parker,
Mhm.
it just makes sense for to have him deal with that,
Mhm.
and having it not just be an easy out to be like, oh yeah, like the Spot's the bad guy, but while Miguel O'Hara is technically a hero, but he's being very anti-black now, and that's put him at odds with our protagonist. Or hey, remember that everyone loved Spider-Gwen in the first movie, but she's also being kind of a jerk in this,
Mhm.
and aligning with white supremacy instead of her friend or the person she says is her friend.
Mhm.
And what is that track record she has of hanging out with the black Spider-Men, but not necessarily seeing them as people as a whole?
Mhm.
Obviously, she uses Spider-Punk to for a place to stay at and maybe have a relationship with, but
Mhm.
does she see him as a whole person? Or even the Issa Rae Spider Woman, like it's kind of like this weird attachment, like fetishization she has of her, and not really
Mhm.
seeing her as a whole. And I'm not saying that that character is a good guy either, but I'm just saying when you see this white woman try to navigate the black people in her life and how she treats them, I think that's very interesting to have it be clear that you don't have to just be the Spot to be the bad guy in
Mhm.
a situation like this in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Love everything you just said. There's just so much I could praise about this movie, but the thing that's most prevalent to me right now is the behavior of white women and their role of complicity in the complacency of everything that's happening in
Hmm.
the world. How they're just
Just
like,
sitting next to it, the bad stuff. Like, I'll let you
yeah,
finish, but yeah,
yeah,
it's
like
just coming.
it's like the good vibes only kind of nonsense that gets pushed out predominantly from that population where it's just like, yeah, like I like you said, being adjacent to blackness, but also like fully on just benefiting from it, but not doing anything to, dare I say, reciprocate or like actually show that you're working together
Or
with it,
just
because it's
understanding what you're dealing with, I think,
exactly.
is how I was trying to phrase it. I'm not trying to speak for you,
Mhm.
but how I
No,
was trying to
yeah.
phrase it was like, yeah, like you can say I have black friends, but like, how comfortable are they speaking to you about how they feel about the police or how they feel about certain things? Or do they have
Mhm.
to close up some of themselves to be able to coexist with you?
Mhm.
And in that's an example that's more real world. But in this movie, as I said, like she is interacting with these black characters, but it
Mhm.
doesn't feel, and until the end when she's like, I realize the issue here and I need to just do the right thing.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying that her arc is one of ultimately a bad person. It's
Mhm.
what we liked in other movies, that she saw her error of her ways and changed her behavior
Yep.
instead of just saying stuff. But through the movie, it's like
Mhm.
she's not being honest with Miles
Mhm.
and kind of leading him on. And I don't mean sexually, but like leading him on in terms of like, oh, let's like hang out, let's play around. And then it's like, I'm here to like monitor stuff and I need to keep you distracted from doing stuff. Like she's
Yeah.
not being honest with him. And that's what I mean by leading on. I'm not here to be like, hey, they should be together.
Yeah.
It's more that she's actively deceiving him as
Mhm.
well as not respecting him as a whole.
Yeah, it's that nuanced thing that white women deal with is the need to be perceived as nice, as opposed to just, okay, you're doing the right thing here objectively by, standing up for the situation and sticking out, and it's all this kind of stuff. And it's so nuanced in the idea of like, okay, yeah, she's accepted into this bigger world, and that's exciting for her and all that kind of stuff. But once you're accepted, it's still your responsibility to use the power that you have in whiteness to kind of change your behaviors with the people that you're directly dealing with. Like I have a lot of personal history with white women specifically being like, oh yeah, I have an Asian friend, Ben, and then also at the same time doing the most racist shit in the world to me and then being like, oh, that's not what I mean. I'm like, no, that's exactly what you meant.
Yeah.
You just don't want the accountability with being confronted with this because you have the unique ability to play the oppressor as well as the victim simultaneously, depending on which side of the coin you want to display, right?
And what I was
It's
going to say was the interesting thing about this. I was listening to Jenna Fisher talking about The Office
mhm.
on her podcast, and she's like, "I don't like Jim in this episode. It's the Dwight Christmas episode where Jim eggs everyone on until they're like, yeah, we'll do Dwight's silly Dutch Christmas thing. She's like, I
Mhm.
don't like that. He's doing that tomorrow. I'm like, but you are right there making it happen, like, and pushing it forward as his wife. Like,
Yes.
you're not, and I think in her mind it was like, yeah, my character's doing that, but Jim's the real jerk. I'm like, but this is the problem, is that you
Hmm.
can recognize that someone else is being a jerk without um examining your actions and your role in it, and sometimes just through complicity, like complacency. But in this case, you are actively working against the person you said is your friend, Dwight.
Hmm.
So I just think that, yeah, like this isn't a new concept, and obviously in that case, even the actor portraying what is going on doesn't
Hmm.
understand what's going on.
Yes.
So it is an interesting to keep bringing up in the media we consume until
Yeah.
people fully understand what's happening there.
Yeah, it's important because and this is the thing I'll point out all the time. And this is I the challenge ultimately ends up being as people of color. It's just like telling people that are in this position to do the work does not result in them doing the right work. You know what I mean? Because it like this is the same reason why the second when Trump lost the election, why more white women voted for him the second time around than the first time around. It's just like, well, did you do the work? Because it doesn't, the actions don't appear that way. And for the women that did do the work, I'm sure they just did not vote for him again. You know what I mean? But there's a bigger amount of people that are doing the Pam thing of what you're talking about. Is like, okay, but you're encouraging this. You're excited for this. You're supporting the people that are doing the shitty thing, and then also at the same time being like criticizing them. It's just that two-faced aspect of what that actually is just so manipulative and so heinous, and just allows for so many terrible things to happen in this world that it's just not acceptable. And I don't like that I really, really despise that they get the pass to play a victim whenever they want. And that, unfortunately, because we are talking about white women, that people will pay attention anytime a white woman cries, like we see with the Amy Coopers of the world that now are going back on the words and playing the defensive again and being like, oh yeah, no, all this making up bullshit where it's like, oh, I found this new way to find a way to explain myself out of this. I'm like, that's not what accountability looks like at all. And this is a population of people that accountability has not traditionally been a thing that they've had to reckon with. And it just there's implosion. And this is something I'm obviously very close to, having been through the life situations I've been through. But the idea of her going on this journey to be like, I'm accepted by something greater than myself. Great. But what does that mean for my responsibility now that I benefit from so many people of color, and Black individuals, Black men in particular in this, right? Love what Spider-Punk does, where he just like, no, this ain't for me. I'm checking out, but also not being like, I need to start a revolution and bring other people with me. He's just doing what he needs to do for himself to stay true to himself, and that's a great thing.
He's helping Miles. I don't actually think he's just working for himself. He's staying true to himself by being like, they're not being honest with you. I hate when people are liars, and I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna give you the tools, literally and figuratively, to dismantle this bullshit.
Absolutely. That's very, very true. Thank you for that correction. But it's Spider-Punk is such a great hero in this, and finally, I'm glad at the end of the movie. And this is, again, when we review this movie, the only negative thing I could say about this movie is that it's not finished, in that we need the part two. That's the only negative thing, and that's not a negative thing. That's a very positive thing to be like, I want more.
Yeah, especially as I said, with it being one of the longest animated films, and you're still like, no, I want more.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no part of me like going into part three. I can tell you right now, I'm going to be making sure I know how my kidney works or bladder works, and there's not a minute of this that's being missed, and I'm going to make sure that I have like eyedroppers in that I do it so I blink as least as possible. It's extreme, but that's how excited I am, and that's why I'm so confident putting this as the best movie of the roster that we reviewed in 2023. It's great.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Well, there it is. That's the first annual. Obviously, we'll try to get more polished and better as we go on, but this was it. The first year of it. We hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it somewhat aligns with your favorite, again, out of the movies that we reviewed, which I think were all the mainstream comic book movies that came out last year. But yeah, other than that, we're part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Contra Zoom Pod, Bad Game Movies, Springfield Googleplex. I think all shows that did their own Oscar episodes, so maybe we were copying them in a way. But yeah,
everything's a copy of a copy.
So yeah, go to thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows. You'll find their awards episodes, and you'll find our show and more shows. If you want to hear older episodes of our show that don't appear on That Shelf, go to any podcast platform you can think of. Rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, follow, and if you don't like to do that and you like to do it the old-fashioned way, please go to our website, tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten, and you will find every episode. If you want to get in touch with us, again, if you feel like we misspoke on anything or you just wanted to add your 2 cents, please, we are at TDF Spoiled on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. So you have options to get in touch with us and let us know how you feel.
Yeah, let's have some healthy and respectful discourse on the matter for sure.
Exactly. We'll be back, and we'll just keep doing. And I think we're recording this the week that X-Men 97 came out. So if you're wondering, no, we're not going to be covering that week by week. We will wait until everything's done and do one episode on the full season. In the meantime, we will be sprinkling in season 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the 92 cartoon.
That's right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.